Good day. Welcome to today's talk. Hope you're having a good day. It's a nice damp day here in Nova Scotia. We really needed the rain, so we're happy for that. I hope you're having a good day. Today we're looking in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 8. And we've been working our way through this chapter in which we're given this kind of a compare and contrast scenario where we have these two ideas. At the beginning of the chapter, we have the wisdom that personified as a woman inviting you into her home to have a meal. And at the end of the chapter, we have foolishness personified as a woman inviting you into her home or enticing you into her home to have a meal. And in these two scenarios, they're both offering a meal, but they're very different in what they're doing. And of course, one is life and the other is destruction. So we get this idea in this chapter. And in the middle, where we're at right now, there's a comparison between the wise person and the fool. The wise person who will go to wisdom for more wisdom, and the fool who will go to the fool for more foolishness. So that's where we're at. So we're here in verse 8. I'm going to read it and then we'll just talk about it for a minute. It says in verse 8, do not reprove a scoffer, or he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. So verse 8 is giving us those two options and showing what kind of person is going to answer which kind of invitation. On the one hand, you have the scoffer, the person who mocks and isn't open at all to any kind of input. The fool, right? Scoffer is a word that is often used in the book of Proverbs to represent the fool. The fool, basically, if you reprove him, if you try to correct the fool, he's going to hate you for it. Whereas the wise man, if you correct the wise man, he'll love you for the correction. So there's a very big contrast between the two of them, and it's about the openness of the person to being corrected, to being set on the right course. The fool doesn't want to be set on the right course. It doesn't like to think they're on the wrong course. They prefer just to move forward without any kind of input from anybody. I'm going to do my thing. Here's a question for you today. Are you the kind of person who is open to being wrong? Are you open to the idea that you're wrong? Now, almost every human will say, oh, of course. Both the wise man and the scoffer will both say, yes, I'm open to it. But the proof is kind of in the pudding, as they say. The proof is in how you actually respond when someone tries to correct you. A wise man, when they are corrected, is very open to it. Well, yeah, maybe I've made a mistake. What do you have to say? Whereas the fool will be very angry. Like, what are you talking about? You can ask yourself this question: when somebody tries to correct you, how expensive is it for them to do so? Do they have to pay a price of your mood or of your angry tone? Or maybe are you going to insult them? Are you going to lash out against them? Are you going to dismiss them? Are you going to be angry for a while afterwards? Are you going to have some sort of retribution against them and want to show them how they're wrong too? Or are you going to hold it with a grudge for a while and this person thinks they know? Does your mind go to those places? In other words, a person who comes to you and offers correction, do you make them pay for that? If you do, then you basically hate them. You're very angry with them. You don't want them to correct you. You're not open to it. And that's what Proverbs is talking about as a fool. And there it is. You got to decide what you're going to do with that. If you're a fool, you're not even going to like me saying this, but there it is, right? Now, the wise person does their best to reduce the cost of someone correcting them. And they try to make it as free as possible because they want the correction, they want it, and so they're open to it, and they invite it even, and so that's very different. Like actually going and looking for it rather than just simply accepting it, but actually looking for it and rewarding somebody when they correct you, giving them respect and giving them honor and showing them that you're happy about your relationship with them and so on. That's where you kind of pay someone to do it, and it's a reward to someone to do it, to correct you and open you up. And if you're in one of those camps, this verse is talking about you're in one side of that, or you lean to one side or the other. Now, we all have times when we're a little bit this way or that way, and of course nobody I know in the world is 100% in either of these directions, but we do tend toward one of them. Now, it's an important distinction to make here that loving reproof doesn't mean that you accept all criticism. That a wise person doesn't just accept every time somebody says, "You're wrong, I'm going to correct you." Like, "Oh, am I? Okay." That's not a wise person either. But there's a difference between saying, "I don't think I'm wrong," and saying, "I'm going to make you pay for suggesting that I am." There's a difference between those two things. And so that's important to realize that we're not talking about accepting the criticism. We're talking about accepting the one who brings it. That the fool is the one who will reject the one who brings the criticism, and the wise man is the one who will accept the one who brings the criticism, because they recognize the value of the criticism. Now a wise person will examine the criticism to see if it's true, and if it really is true, they will accept the criticism, and they'll say, "Okay, I need to change, I made a mistake, the reproof is," and they're very happy this person corrected them. But a fool, well, they won't even examine the criticism. They'll reject not only the criticism but the person who brings it. And so that's the difference there. Now, you know, a kind disagreement. Why would a person love being corrected? So, what is it in a person's personality that makes them very open to correction? And it comes down to the idea that a wise person is a person who wants to be in the right. A wise person wants to be right. It doesn't mean it's not for pride's sake. A fool, it's pride, right? For a fool, they don't care about being right. They just want everybody to think they're right. And so they don't want anybody to ever consider them to be wrong. And so their pride gets in the way. And the fool is like, I don't care if I'm right or not. I just don't want anybody telling me I'm wrong. I don't want anybody thinking I'm wrong. I want everybody to think of me as right. That's why a fool will often double down when they finally get to the point where they have to admit it. I really was wrong. They'll often still double down and stay in their position, even though they now know it's incorrect. Because for that person, it's more important that they look right rather than actually being right. Whereas the wise man realizes, you know what, even if people go, "Man, he was wrong," and they think I was wrong, well, if I was wrong, I was wrong. I'd rather be right. So I'll accept that, and I'll just change, and I'll enter into the right place. And if you really think about what I just said in those two differences, that's why there's such great power in the wise man and such great danger in the foolish man, is because looking right and being right are very different things. And one leads to life and one leads to death. Anyway, there's something for you to contemplate and think about. This verse is highlighting the difference. We want to be wise people, of course, who are very open to correction and wanting to find the truth and walk in the correct path. That's what we want to be. So I encourage you in that. God bless you. Until next time, we'll see you then.